Now available in paperback and e-readers. John Haynes, 1987. Learn lessons about life and teenage love in the 1980s in this coming-of-age John Haynes story. Get your copy of John Haynes, 1987 in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Seems like there are some in the UK who are understanding and acknowledging the man crisis that's going on in the West and all across the globe. I was reading a BBC article that talked about how boys growing up without dads are in crisis, and that basically is the entire premise of what I presented in my 2018 book, The Man Crisis. Now, what is leading to this man crisis going on all across the globe is the fact that we are not raising boys in a way where they can have a person to show them an example of manhood and masculinity. And because there is nobody there to be there to teach these boys their role as related to life in God's order, or their role as men as related to God's standard of being a steward, many of these boys are growing up to become children of the corn and growing up like wild stalks because they have nobody there to establish structure and order for them, nor is there anybody there to teach them the male life skills or male survival skills that they will be needing to navigate the world. And this is why these boys who grow up without fathers are winding up in crisis, because they don't know what their role is. And as they enter into the world, they become extremely frustrated and extremely angry because they don't see a way for themselves in the world. And this is what puts them on a road to destructive behaviors all across the globe. Now, I proposed a solution in my book, The Man Crisis, in the final chapter of that book. And in the final chapter of that book, I said that the solution to dealing with this man crisis would be an investment in men. And an investment in men did not mean money. No, an investment in men meant investing time into these young men, where someone would be providing them with a model of manhood and an example of manhood and masculinity, and someone who would teach them their role of as a man in God's order and their role as a head and a steward. Moreover, there would be somebody there to model manhood for these young men and teach them male life skills and male survival skills, something that they are not being taught. And that's why those boys are again going out here and becoming lost and troubled in society and going on dysfunctional paths, like one of the young men who are mentioned in the story, heading down the road to the gangster lifestyle because he had no man there to show him how to be a man, and no man to be showing him an example of manhood and masculinity, a man to show him male and teach him male life skills and male survival skills so he could be an actual man. There was nobody there to give him that investment in time and effort into him, and since there was nobody to invest in that boy, he goes to alternatives to look to examples of manhood, and those examples of manhood can be anybody from criminals like drug dealers and gang members to people who are dysfunctional like an Andrew Tate. Again, this is because there are no men in the society investing in their sons and the men in their community, and since there's nobody investing in them, these men are not returning on the investment by becoming husbands, protectors, and providers. No, what they're doing is becoming self-destructive and participating in self-destructive behaviors, whether it be getting involved with gangs or getting involved with crime or getting involved in participating in antisocial lifestyles and things and antisocial communities online. This is what happens when there are no men out there investing in men. And again, an investment in men is where the men in the community invest in spending time on teaching the boys and the young men what they need to know as related to their role in God's order, as related to being heads and stewards. That's what a man is supposed to do, is invest in the men in their community. Unfortunately, we haven't had that type of investment over the last 60 years, as the wealthy have looked to reshape society in an effort to, again, eradicate manhood because they wanted to maintain their wealth. And as they looked to maintain their wealth, they wanted to destroy the family by taking the father out of his role as leader and head in God's order, wanted to take the man out of his role, because what they wanted people looking to was the images they presented in media. They wanted people looking at the television and the socially engineered beta males they were designing. Unfortunately, many of those males, because they don't have an actual man in their lives, what happens is these boys grow up to become dysfunctional men in crisis, and those men in crisis are creating chaos throughout society, because without that father there to be that actual man who's in charge as a head and a steward, without that father there to be able to establish structure and order for his family and establish guidance for his children as related to teaching those boys how to survive in the world, what happened with these boys is that they're becoming lost in gynocentric institutions like public schools, and without that father there, they are heading towards looking for male identities through dysfunctional individuals like gangsters, criminals, and other assorted people like online personalities like Andrew Tate, which present them with hyper masculinity and not really giving them anything at all. No, without men there to give them guidance, those boys are becoming lost. And in the UK, they have an organization, a nonprofit called Lads Needs Dad, a local program that's meant to equip boys with life skills and confidence. And this is what I talk about investing in men. Again, investing in young boys and young men through organizations like this Lads Needs Dads, where male mentors are working with those boys and teaching them male life skills, like things about learning about healthy relationships, anger management, and what makes a father, and again teaching them what they need to become a better, as I call it, a man of character. That's what boys are needing in this society, that type of investment. And in the past, the feminists said that this type of investment was considered to be sexist, but this is essential for teaching and developing young men. Only a man knows how to be a man. Only a man knows what manhood actually is. Only men know how life works for men, because the way the world works for men is completely different than the way it works for women. The way the world works for men, again, it's a rough place. It's all about our survival. And if we don't get what we need to learn about survival, what happens is these boys become lost and they start heading down really dangerous roads. And the way we keep boys on the right track is investing in them, especially when they are in their youth and adolescence. This is where you need to have a heavy structuring and scaffolding so that these boys know how life works for men. But again, over the last 60 years, we haven't invested in these boys, and that's why we've got all these men in crisis who are becoming more and more lost. And that's what is shown in the recent Netflix series from the UK called Adolescence. Now, the Adolescence miniseries is a series that's on Netflix, and it centers on a 13-year-old boy named Jamie Miller, who is arrested for the murder of a girl at his school. And the entire series talks all about how these 13-year-old boys basically are growing up to become men in crisis due to the dysfunctional things and misinformation that they're getting on social media. It's talking about how people like influencers like Andrew Tate are influencing young men, and this red pill culture is influencing young men in a negative way, and influencing these young children because they really don't understand the context of the information that's being presented to them. And that's what I've been seeing for the last year or so as related to mass shooters. A lot of the mass shooters that are coming up, they are growing up online, reading information that is and taking it out of context and following influencers like Andrew Tate and not understanding that this person is presenting them misinformation and presenting them misinformation because there's nobody there supervising these adolescents on the internet as they're growing up at a vulnerable state when they need their parents to give them guidance. Now, this is what's happening here with Netflix's Adolescence. It actually mirrors what happened with my generation, Generation X. A lot of us grew up as latchkey kids. A lot of us grew up sitting in front of a television, and that's what the wealthy wanted us to see, was the images on television, and believed that that was the ideal. Unfortunately, when it came down to the kids of today, the internet is basically way faster as related to the information being presented, because when we were given TV, it was meant to program an idea into our minds. But what's happening is that when we got programmed, we got a lot of misinformation and didn't know it. And the whole thing is happening, the same thing's happening here to a lot of young people today. But when they look at their tablets and smartphones, they can't differentiate the information. They're not old enough to have those critical thinking skills, and they're taking all the misinformation that they're seeing online as fact, or taking information out of context and taking it for fact. And that's what's presented here in the Netflix series Adolescence. In the Netflix series Adolescence, they're presenting you the young boy Jamie Miller, who basically again is learning about girls and learning about relationships, but because he's got a lot of misinformation from a lot of social media as related to red pill content, he got a lot of misinformation about 80-20 and other concepts. And this is what has him in the story as related to taking the life of one of his classmates, because he basically, again, is being labeled an incel because he doesn't even understand what that means, because, again, the whole concept of incel has been, again, misinformed, and the whole foundation of incel is misinformation, because those individuals who call themselves incels, basically these are individuals who believe that they are involuntarily celibate because girls don't like them. But in the actuality, it's just these guys don't have the courage to go out here and take rejection, and they don't have the courage to take rejection because they have not had a man invest in them to let them know there is no such thing as an incel. Like I do in many of my videos and lives, I try to tell people, there's no such thing as an incel. Again, you can choose not to, again, be sexually active, or you can choose to, again, be sexually active and the whole thing is, if you choose to be sexually active, you are going to have to deal with rejection. You're going to have to deal with girls telling you no, and you even in some cases deal with girls disrespecting you. This was something that I dealt with in the late 80s when I was growing up as a teenager. In adolescence, I dealt with girls being extremely cruel, being extremely hostile, and being very nasty when they would reject me. And back then, about almost 40 years ago, the only thing you could do was basically, again, learn how to navigate through your emotions, where yes, you were hurt as related to what they were saying, and eventually what you would do is not act on that hurt. What you would do is basically brush all of that off and continue to move on, because what would happen is you would understand that if she could be this nasty to you as related to disrespecting you, then this is not somebody you want to have a relationship with. And this is the type of conversation a boy would be having with his father. But sadly, many fathers aren't in the home, whether it be because of divorce or whether it be because they left the home because of they could not, again, work with the mother due to parental alienation, or in many cases, some guys just work real hard, so they don't have time to sit down and talk to their sons and let them know what the deal is as related to girls and related to things online, understanding that, again, with the internet, you have to take things with a grain of salt. If somebody's calling you an incel, again, let them know that that title means absolutely nothing, because, again, there's nobody who's involuntary celibate. People can choose to be active with people who want to be active with them. And the whole thing of incel, again, this was a term, again, taken out of context by individuals who, again, don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work to become men. They don't want to have the discipline and resolve to be able to take those rejections and go on to find a relationship with a woman. No, what they're looking to do is look to, again, use this gimmick of incel to get pity from people and hope to eventually get the pity attention from women. And that's what the incel community is all about. These are men who don't want to do the work. And again, sadly, many young adolescent boys are not getting the information from men, and that's what they're presenting in Adolescence, a tragic story of what happens when a father does not invest in his son. He goes online looking for alternatives, and as he's looking for alternatives, as he's being bullied, what that does is lead him down a road to antisocial people like Andrew Tate and antisocial behavior as related to the distorted reality of the red pill, or as I call it, crack cocaine community. And again, this show basically shows what's happening to our adolescents with this internet culture, an internet culture where basically people are not getting good information and good information in context. And it's showing me again how people are now slowly starting to acknowledge the man crisis going on, at least in the UK to a point. That's what I'm seeing with this program, Lads Needs Dads, and this Adolescence series. I'm seeing how people are acknowledging that we have a man crisis and we need to start doing some things to invest in our boys to help them to become healthy men, invest in our boys to become healthy men so that they don't wind up on a dysfunctional road to becoming men in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behaviors of boys or men on the road to becoming men in crisis and help them break out of that pattern, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos about men's issues and the crisis going on with boys and young men, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.